Here's me holding a stretch right now. According to some recent studies, if I stay here long enough, this could actually grow my quad. Though the catch is that long enough does not mean 30 seconds. In one study, people held a couch stretch for 15 minutes per leg. Other studies went all the way up to an hour. So yes, stretching may build some muscle, but before we cancel leg day and turn the gym into a yoga studio, we need to see what kind of stretching actually worked. Because this is either a useful training tool or the slowest workout ever invented. Here's the answer up front. Stretching can produce muscle growth. On average, the effect looks small, and the studies that found the best results did not use casual stretching. People held the stretches for a long time, the stretches were difficult, then they repeated them for weeks. That's nothing like touching your toes for 20 seconds while thinking about what you're ordering for dinner. So the idea is real. It's just much less convenient than the headline make it sound. Now, when I say stretching, I mean static stretching. You move into a position and stay there. The target muscle gets pulled long enough to create real tension. I'm not talking about leg swings before a workout. Those are dynamic stretches. I'm also not counting a deep split squat. That may train the muscle at a long length, but it is still resistance training. The question here is much simpler. If the stretch itself is the only resistance, can that be enough? Apparently, sometimes. Let's get the big research picture out of the way quickly. One review from 2024 found that average effect on muscle growth was unclear and trivial. Another review found a small positive effect. So the reviews are not saying stretching is a secret hypertrophy hack. They're saying there may be a small benefit when the dose is high enough. The results started to look more promising when sessions reached around 15 minutes. They also looked better when people kept going for more than 6 weeks. Now we get to the study that made people pay attention. First, the calves. In a 2022 study, people had one calf held in a stretch by an orthosis. They did that for 1 hour every day. After 6 weeks, one part of the calf increased in size by 15.2%. Now that's an impressive result. It's also a very unusual setup. Imagine explaining that you stretched one calf for an hour every day and now you need another 6 weeks just to make the match. This study shows that growth is possible. It doesn't show that the method is practical though. Then there was the chest study. Participants stretched their chest for 15 minutes. They did it 4 days per week for 8 weeks in total. The setup kept tightening the stretch as the tension started to fade. Within that study, the changes in muscle thickness were similar to the resistance training group. That headline sounds wild, but this was supervised. It also used a specialized device. So stretching matched lifting needs a very large asterisk beside it. The newest example looked at the quadriceps. Participants held a couch stretch for 15 minutes per leg. They did it 3 times per week for about 12 sessions. The stretch was hard. The target was around an 8 out of 10 discomfort. The researchers found growth in specific regions of the rectus femoris, which is your quad muscle. That's promising because the position is easy to recognize. But the study was short. The results was also limited to certain regions. So it is interesting evidence. It is not the final answer though. Across all 3 studies, the same patterns keep showing up. This was not relaxing. The tension was high and the time commitment was much bigger than people expected. So why would a stretch make a muscle grow at all? The easiest way to think about it is tension. Your muscles doesn't know that you're holding a dumbbell. It only experiences the force being placed on it. During lifting, the muscles create active tension. During a hard stretch, it can experience passive tension. Think about pulling on an elastic band. A tiny pull doesn't create much tension. As the band gets longer, the tension rises. A muscle is obviously much more complicated than an elastic band, but the basic visual helps. If that passive tension is high enough, the muscle may treat it as a reason to adapt. Researchers have several ideas about the steps that happen after that. the exact chain hasn't been proven inside the same human stretching studies. So the practical point is not that you need to memorize a signaling pathway. It is that an easy, comfortable stretch probably does not create the same stimulus. Now for the reality check. Something can work without being the smartest way to do it. 15 minutes for one muscle adds up very quickly. If you try to cover your whole body this way, your stretching session could have its own intermission. Resistance training is much easier to progress. You can add weight over time, you can also train more muscles in the same session. And the evidence for lifting is much stronger. So if you have access to weights and you could train normally, lifting should still do most of the work. Stretching makes more sense as support. What about hard stretching between sets? The research there is mixed. It may help in some cases, but it can also make your next set worse. I wouldn't sacrifice the lifting we know for a stretching benefit that might not be there. That doesn't mean the idea is useless. I just wouldn't turn it into a full stretching based workout. If I wanted to experiment, I would choose one muscle. I will keep my normal training the same. Then I will add the stretch after training or at another time. The positive studies often used around 15 minutes for the target muscle. They repeated that several times per week. Most of the longer program ran for at least 6 to 8 weeks. That gives you a research-based experiment. It's not a proven minimum that every person needs to copy. The position should create a strong stretch in the muscle you're targeting. It should still feel controlled. Sharp pain isn't the goal. Numbness is also a reason to stop. And the same goes for any tingling. And also, don't chase the 8 out of 10 discomfort from the quadriceps study. That protocol was supervised. One challenge is that a stretch often starts to feel easier while you're holding it. That doesn't mean you need to build a homemade torture device though. A small position adjustment may bring the tension back. Keep the adjustment controlled. Most importantly, don't let this reduce the quality of your lifting. If your main training gets worse, the experiment has missed the point. For most lifters, this is an accessory. It might be worth testing on one stubborn muscle. It becomes more useful when you're training at home or traveling. If you can't create much external load, a demanding stretch may be better than doing nothing. There may also be rehab situations where active loading is limited. That needs to be decided with the right clinician. So there is real use for this. It's just much narrower than the headline suggests. So can stretching build muscle? Yes, but the version that works looks more like training than relaxing. It takes a long time, it has to create meaningful tension, and you have to repeat it consistently. So for most people, resistance training is still the better main option. Would you actually hold one stretch for 15 minutes if it might add a little muscle? Let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know in the comments what other topics are you curious about, and I can make a video on that next. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.